What if I told you the way it has always been done is not the best way? Facing your fears will change your life. The passion behind this journey is merging two separate worlds into one with the goal of creating value and awareness for a better life.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. All right, on the Iron Infrastructure podcast today, we have a unique, special, mentally calloused, savage, badass guest. He goes by the Spartan. He is a friend of mine. He is my mentor now in the inner circle, Dr. Trevor Bachmeyer. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I cannot thank you enough for your time today.
Dude, this is awesome. I'm glad to be here. Like I remember our first phone call that we had, and it was I said this in our coaching group a little while back, where I said, like, you know, you meet Jake, you talk to Jake, he's very stoic, very like linear, is very methodical about what he does. That's what I was saying to everybody else. And then once you and I became friends, I'm like, this guy's fucking gangster, man. Like, he's funny. He's got shit that he does. He throws things at me. He's got these crazy ideas that always work. You just got to figure out a way to do it. But the cool part is you always come back to being on task. And like, even when you come in, like, you're professional when you need to be professional and you stay there, you don't deviate. That's something that a lot of people could learn. Because they go, I don't know how to do this. So they're either rigid all the time or they're goofing off all the time. And I was like, and I even said it to my wife. I was like, this guy's a good fucking dude. You were like, okay, I want to talk to my wife. I want to have a game plan. I want to know what we're doing. I want to lay it all out. Okay, let's go. And then you just hit the gas.
I got to know the essential detail of the situation, the big picture, essential detail, and then I can make a decision. I don't need all of it, and I can't skip detail. I need to have the essential, and then I'm good.
Right.
Yeah. I'd like to know the
temperature. But look, when you told
also.
me go ahead. Sorry.
I like to know the temperature of the room. So who I'm speaking with, you know, I play it kind of conservative for a minute, and then I know who I'm talking to, and then I understand the temperature of that room, and that's a skill set that maybe been acquired over time. But
sure.
Talking to
Dude,
you.
Think about your story, man.
Yeah.
Your story that you shared with me when you were like 21. Boom. This is where I changed. I literally made a hard right and never went back. And as soon as you said that, I went, I fucking like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He knows what he wants to do. I like this guy. Yep. Because it matters. Because people get wishy-washy about their stuff, right? Like, it's not working, so I'm going to pivot. It's not working, so I'm going to pivot. Except the problem becomes then anytime it gets hard, you just change direction. Well, that doesn't get you anywhere. Now you went, it's actually hard this way, but it's hard as fuck going that way too. But that's the direction I want to go. So you went, I'm going.
When the pain of staying the same is so bad, change isn't that bad, right? So making a move, because staying the same is not an option for me, and I know you can relate to that.
Dude, stagnation will kill you, man.
It's the death. So let's talk about this, because we're talking about adversity in general and life in general and overcoming obstacles. I have my best friend, Jeremy Traeger, has a very similar story to you, and we connected on that right away. Let's go to 2005 and then bring me to present with Trevor Bachmeyer, what he has overcame, what he went through, and give me a summary of your story, because it is absolutely freaking incredible.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, I mean, real fast, I became this really huge success as a doc. Came out of school early, did all that stuff, which is a nightmare, by the way. Everybody's like, oh, that's cool. No, I got called Doogie, and it sucked because my social skills didn't evolve with my intellect, right? So you just become this, there's such a gap with relating to people. And then when I got to California, I was really successful, making all this money. And then I wound up getting diagnosed with stage 3B non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they were like, you're going to die. And they're like, you got 9 months at best. There's nothing we can do. You're too weak to do chemo. You have all these issues going on. Your red blood cell count is so low. They just gave me this gambit of stuff. And I blew $1 million inside of 3 months because I was just pissed off, and I hated God, hated my parents. I hated everybody. I was bitter. Like, I was an angry, bitter man, because I went, I don't do anything bad. I don't do any drugs at all. I don't take meds. My fridge is full of good food, and I like what I do. All right. So I'm like, how the fuck am I getting this this cross to bear while some serial killer gets to live to be 95.
Right.
And so it made me bitter. And I went, fuck it. If I'm going out with a bang. So I blew $1 million in 3 months, had a ton of friends, because when you do that, you get a lot of friends. And then all of a sudden I had nothing, and I was broke, and I was about to lose my apartment. I had no furniture. I had nothing. And I sat in my apartment and I looked out my window and I was mad, and I told my dad, like, my dad was a preacher, and I said, God's out to get me. And he's like, God doesn't work like that. And I said, well, he does in my case. He's out to fucking get me, and I'm not going to let him win. And there was no arguing with me at that point. I was just stubborn, and my dad was a preacher, and he was like, listen, that's not how it works. And I looked out my window and I said, God, you better give me a reason, or my patio doors. I said, or I'm going to do it myself. Fuck you. I'm not going to let you win. Because I thought if I died through cancer, he was winning. And then I chambered around, held the gun to my head, and I was shaking, bawling my eyes out with a 40 cal sitting in there, and I fell asleep on the floor. And 2 days later, I met my wife, Brandy. And it changed everything. And I mean, she's the one that sat, we didn't even know it. Like, I had met her about a year ago briefly. It was one of these, hey, and I got an eye roll, and that's literally all I got. And then a year later, I've been in love with her my entire life. And when people hear that, they go, oh, come on. I go, well, then you don't know. That's all right. You don't know. You're probably with the wrong fucking person. And we sat across from each other at a lunch date, our first date. And I said, like, fuck, I got to tell you something, man. Like, in my head, I'm like, I can't be that asshole that's like, hey, by the way, let's start this life together. I'm sick. They didn't give me a lot of time. Right. And so I said, I got to tell you something, Brandy. And she goes, is it about cancer? And I said, yeah, that's really weird. How do you know? And she says, well, the people at the gym, they've seen you like coughing up blood, and they've seen you really sick, and they've said you're not doing so well. And I'd cough up, I'd look like a murder scene on my pillow in the morning sometimes.
So you're still getting it in too.
Yeah, and I would, and sometimes it was always a struggle. It's, you train. It's always a struggle. Where's the struggle? Is the struggle wishing you did, or the struggle is knowing that you have to and you're going to? Right? There's always a struggle. And I told her, and she didn't miss a beat. She literally, it was not even a second. She goes, I don't care. She goes, I want all your time. She goes, out 2 years, 2 months, 2 days. She goes, I don't care. I want all your time. She goes, I'm your angel, and I'm here to save you. And I was like, fuck. And like, I got teary eyed, and it changed my whole life because I felt it. And 3 months later, we were engaged. 3 months after that, we were married. And it's been 18 years, and she's my best friend. Like, she is hands down without. And listen, we're real people. She is a D1, like a pro soccer player. She's driven as fuck. If you've seen her online, she is a beast. Like, she is such an animal. 5'2" and squats 245 for reps. And she's like a $125. Like, it's just ridiculous. She's so strong and so athletic. But she's also the only person, I said this on another call I had this morning. I said this, she's the only person I know, and I meet thousands of people all the time, that when she says, I'm going to do this, or if I hand her something, I can literally walk away. I know for a fact. Her word is so strong, more than anyone I've ever met. And honestly, this is to be very frank, Jake, you fall into that category. Like, you're very, very like, I'm going to do this, and you haven't missed a call with me. You haven't missed a message. You haven't missed a document. You haven't, like, when you say you're going to do it, I don't have to chase you down, which is why you're successful. But that's also why my wife was successful. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt or it doesn't suck. It means that your word matters, right? And so we went through life, and I wound up going through cancer a few more times, and they said we'd never have kids. We have 2. We've never, like, everybody's, you're never going to be successful. And then fast forward to just like 2.5 years ago, and I got really sick, and, I was like, I'm not going to the doctor. And I woke up one night, maybe midnight, and I told my wife, I said, you need to take me to the hospital. Something's off. And it was really bad. And so they took me there. They rushed me into ICU. It was this disaster. I was there for almost 6 days. I think I was there 6-7 days. I don't remember most of my time there, other than they took my phone. They kicked my wife out of the fucking hospital. They escorted her out. She's sitting there on a couch. This part I remember. What's that?
Was that during COVID?
Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of fucking douchebags. Jeez. Yeah, a bunch of... And listen, if any listener is like, oh, that's real, fuck you. That's all I got to say. Fuck you.
I'm with you on that.
That's all I got for you.
No,
fuck you.
I'm with
they
you on that one.
me.
So, yeah.
Because it's... And I don't care if it's offensive to somebody. It's like, you're crazy, man. That's a lie. It's a fucking lie.
Yeah, we don't care about feelings around here.
Yeah. Like, it's like, fuck your feelings. Do the work, right?
Yeah.
But I remember looking at my wife sitting on a couch, and they had me in this intensive care room, and I'm struggling to breathe. It was bad. And they're like, "Oh, who's that?" And this fucking nurse, God, I just want to find out her name and tag her on every dumb thing I say about her, because you fat fuck, you are just a terrible human being. And she goes, "Oh, she's going to have to leave." And I go, "That's my wife. She's been with me nonstop." And she goes, "It doesn't matter. This is a like quarantine, blah, blah, blah." I don't remember what she said, but she escorted her out. And there's my wife being escorted out of the hospital while her husband is inside fighting to stay alive. And she's outside hysterical, calling her friend, Lizette, who's a great family friend of ours, her and her husband, bawling, saying, "I'm never going to see my husband. He's going to die in this fucking hospital. They won't let me in." And I think about that, like even that gets me so like just infuriating, because I think if I was her and I'm like, I can't go see her. And I'm like, this is a hospital.
And she had to
above all, do no harm. Above all, do no harm. Yep. I took a Hippocratic oath. Above all, do no fucking harm. That is harm. Right? And I mean, there's people that died without seeing their spouse. They died in the hospital. Like, I never saw him because I was behind a fucking plastic bag. You know? So they kept pressuring me to get vaccinated and do all these different treatments, and they're like, nothing's working, and they were pressuring me to do something called remdesivir. And remdesivir is, well, it'll kill you. Like, I was on Brad's podcast, and the first thing he said, he goes, "Oh shit, that'll kill you." And I go, "Yep, absolutely." And he goes, "I heard that's so bad for you." I go, "Yeah, it's what caused a tumor." And this is where it gets wild. So about 3 days in, I finally caved, because I thought I was getting better. They were like, "You're getting worse." It turns out I was getting better. And they're like, "You need to go on remdesivir, and you need to do monoclonal antibodies." And so those are radically different. Monoclonal antibodies, not bad. Remdesivir, it's basically antivenin, right? You're taking the white cells from someone else. And the remdesivir, if you look it up, is like a 50% like death when you take this shit. It's a 10-day protocol. Most people die on day 9.
Wow.
So I'm in there. My wife is so incredibly intelligent. She is so smart, and she will go down the rabbit hole until she gets the answer, even if it takes her a lifetime. And I love that about her, because she saved my life. And when people sit there and they go, "I don't know, is God real?" God's fucking real. Let me tell you, God's fucking real. Because he got in my wife's head and said, "You need to get him out of there." Because I sent her a message, and I go, "I don't think I'm going to make it." I go, "I'm not going to make the morning. Here's an entire synopsis of our life. You need to know all this stuff to make sure you run our life really well." And like, we have no secrets, but I was like, "You need to know all this so you can run our life when I'm gone." And she sends me a message back. I saved it. I screenshot it. I read it every day, hundreds of times. And she's like, "I can't do this life without you. I need you. You're the strongest man I know. I can't do this without you."
Man.
And I got angry, not at her, at what was trying to kill me. And I created a person. And the person was everything trying to hurt me. And I looked at this person and I went, "One of us is going to raise my family. If you raise my family, it's a bad memory and nothing but pain. If I raise my family, I won, motherfucker." So I went, "You're going to die." And I went to war. And I went on remdesivir against my better judgment, because I was terrified. And my wife went down the rabbit hole in remdesivir, and she says, it was 2-3, I think I was on it for 3 days. And she goes, you need to get out of this hospital." And now I trust my wife more than anybody. A burning bush could be outside and it could be like, "You need to do this." I'll be like, "Let me check with my wife first." I trust her more than anybody. And she's like, "We need to leave. They're not helping you. I think they're hurting you. They're trying to kill you."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay, let's go." Took them 9 hours to release me. They argued, told me I was going to die, and I had to be on oxygen to survive when I left, because I was so fucked. I got home. I didn't miss a workout. I worked out. There's so much video of me out on oxygen lines, training, struggling, crying, throwing my weights, being angry, upset. I didn't care. 3 weeks later, I got back pain, brutal, to the point it was like a 10 out of 10, and it was inside my chest. And I was like, let's go for a follow-up. I had to go back on oxygen, 5 liters, which is a shitload. I couldn't even function without it. Like, I would sit on my couch, Jake, and I would hyperventilate, and then I'd take the cannula off, and she'd unplug the oxygen, run down. The hallway's fucking long, and it's these giant slate tiles, so it's like clack, 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 clack to get down. And she rips it down the hallway, brings it out to the gym, plugs it in, gives me the cannula so I don't pass out. And then I would work out. Man. And I hear people I have people go, oh, you're fucking crazy. You probably hurt yourself. I go, no, that's what kept me alive. Because I refused to quit. Because I'll be damned if my
You were
kids,
killing the person that you faced in the
fuck
hospital.
yes, exactly. Exactly. That you said it exactly. And I was like, my kids, even if I don't make it, will see a man that never quit. My wife will know that her husband never quit until the very end, because so many people roll over and show their belly and go, I guess it's just not meant to be. You're crazy. If you have breath in your lungs, you have fight in your body.
Yeah.
And so I would go out and I'd work out. Well, we're going to the doctor after this because I had this back pain, and she's worried again. And she's sitting in this office, and they're like, let's go take an x-ray. I was like, okay. And I was like, I'll be fine. I walk with my oxygen tank, and it was weird. Like I felt like an octogenarian just walking around with this tank, right? And they take an x-ray, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and the guy goes, can you come here for a second? I go, sure. And we walk around the corner, and there's a hallway, and there's a view box at the end. And I've seen 10,000 x-rays at least. And I looked at it, and I knew exactly. And there's a tumor about the size of a football in my
Holy
chest.
shit.
It's about this big. Yeah.
That's a massive
And
tumor.
I looked at that. It's so fun. And it grew in 3 weeks. So here's the best part. I have all the records. 100% brand new.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's where it gets crazy.
Wow.
So when these people go, oh, I don't know. I go, motherfucker, I've got the x-rays and the CT scans from before, and I have them all after, and I downloaded every one of them, and I saved them all because those motherfuckers, doctor records, fuck you.
3 weeks.
So yeah, so it gets even worse. So the guy goes, I saw it and I almost threw up. I was like, holy shit. And he goes, you need to go to ER right now. It was right across the street. This was an urgent care center. He goes, you need to go to ER like right now. And I go, okay. So I go, babe, we have to go to the hospital. And I watched her she was the color of my shirt. She just blanches out. She's like, fuck. So they take me in, rush me into ER, put me in a room. There was COVID patients up and down the hallways. There were tents outside. It was when this whole bullshit lie was going on. Like I hear this, even just saying it, Jake, it gets me so fucking angry because I'm so disgusted in how humanity rolled over and said, you're right. We're going to listen. Fucking stupid mankind. If you're listening, all of mankind, you're all fucking stupid. Stand up. It's ridiculous because I think the number of people that died because they listened to a healthcare professional that's supposed to look at you and I and go, I got you, I'll help you, are the ones that did the damage for money. For money. You know what? You can be rich as fuck without killing people. Just saying. So we're in there. They did another CT scan, and I'm like, okay. I told Brandy, I go, it's probably just a big pocket of pus. It's probably just really bad infection. I said, they're probably going to do what's called the thoracocentesis. Big needle, bend me over a table, suck it out. Woo, I feel great, right? To keep me there for a day to make sure I don't have some kind of like tension pneumo or something, right? So I told that to the doctor, and he puts his hand on my arm. He goes, oh, no. He says, we have to schedule you for surgery. You're not going home. And that's when I went, this got real fast. Because I'm like, shit, I've been a surgeon. You're going to do thoracic surgery on me? Holy fuck.
Well, and removing something that big.
Oh, dude. Like they're
God.
going to gut me like a fish, man. And I went, this is insane. And I'm like, I'm 48. Holy fuck. And I went right to the top of the food chain. The next step would be cardiac or brain, right? So I was like, it wasn't like, hey, my thumb needs surgery. I went, what, right to the top. And so now Brandy's upset. She's scared. And so she'd come every day, bring me food. She sat with me. She is such a strong woman. She ran our entire life while making sure I was still okay in the hospital. And on the 3 days, they kept going, we can't find a doctor. We can't find a bed. We can't find a hospital. We can't find anything. I'm in Texas, is a big fucking state, man. They can't find it in Texas. Jeez. And they're like, day 3. And so by day 3, I'm pissing in a little jar because I can't go. I'm so fucked. And I'm sitting there and I'm starting to get worried. And Brandy's starting to get worried. And she leaves. And they're like, we're going to have to send you out of state. And I knew that if I got on that plane, Jake, I was going to die. I knew if I got on a plane, I wasn't going to make it. And like, could you imagine me sitting on a plane with an oxygen tank trying to survive, and then all of a sudden my lung collapses? I'm dead. There's nowhere to go. I'm out.
I mean, just the pressure
and so,
of the plane would,
that's exactly it. Cabin pressure is just going to fuck me, right? Like, it just, people don't understand that. And because I had somebody go, well, why didn't you just get on a plane? I go, because I didn't want to die. Because I knew something inside me was like, don't you ever get on that plane.
5,000 feet, you're gone. Once you get up.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Like, you're fucked. And you understand that, right? The physics behind it. And so I was like, no. Well, the doctor left, and they were like, we're still trying to find. And Brandy had just left to take the kids to school. And I sat on my bed, and I'm looking around it. And I was in the shitty ER room with a glass sliding door and a fucking curtain, right? Like it wasn't the ICU room because they were so packed. Like I was lucky I wasn't in the hallway. And it was only because I was fucking dying. They were like, well, we got to give this guy room because he's dying. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to keep trying. And I stood up and I just started thanking God. I didn't know what else to do. So I just stood there and I didn't ask, I didn't beg. And that's people, they get it wrong, right? I'm like, and I've been that. We've all done that, negotiating, right, with God. And I'm like, no. And so I just started thanking him. Thank you for giving me, like, building me into a juggernaut, giving me another 50 years with my wife, making me, like, just obscenely wealthy so I could do more good with it and help more people and like, making me strong and a leader. And I just went on giving me the best surgeon and removing this tumor and just, like, turning me into this, like, savage animal that can just keep on going and do good work. And that's literally all I did for about 10 minutes. I just kept thanking him for all this stuff. And then I sat on that bed and I just started bawling my eyes out because I was like, fuck, I'm out. Like I am exhausted, right? And about, I don't know, 10 minutes, I get a knock on the glass door as it slides open. Trevor Bachmeyer? Yeah. Just letting you know your ride to Dallas is going to be here in half an hour for your surgery tomorrow. And I'm like, I grab my phone and even talking about it gets me all shook up. And I send my wife a message and I go, get the kids. I'm having surgery at noon tomorrow. And she's like, what? And she got there. They loaded me up, strapped me in, put me in the back of an ambulance, drove there. She was right on, glued to that ambulance the whole way. She went right into the ER exit, like entrance where she wasn't supposed to. She didn't fucking care. And it was still that weird COVID shit. So she walks up to the room with me, the ICU room in Dallas. And my kids are sitting outside on a bench because they wouldn't let them in.
My God.
This is the fucking United States, man. And I'm like, holy shit. And so I'm in there. I'm worried. I'm stressed. And the next day was supposed to be 12:30. That was the one night I think she didn't stay that night because she couldn't, because it was instant. Like it was like, hey, get the kids. So she came the next morning and I think it was that. And like I said, my memory's pretty fucked up because I don't remember a lot of this stuff. And I kissed my wife and I remember asking the doctor, hey, am I going to be okay? And he goes, I've done about 700 of these. He goes, I think you'll be okay. And I'm like, all right. Turns out this guy is the best thoracic surgeon in the United States. And like it literally lined up in ways that people go, well, you're just lucky. I ain't lucky, motherfucker. God went, we're not done. And so I remember going into surgery. They said, you're going to feel some burning in your arm where the anesthesia goes in. He says, you're going to feel some burning, and then that's literally all I remember. And then I wake up and I remember like lots of stuff during that afterwards, but I wake up, my wife says the first thing I asked for was my wedding ring. So true character is exposed in times of adversity, right? And I think you're introduced to yourself in times of trial. And I thought I was pretty savage before. I was missing a lot more than I thought. And I know damn well who the fuck I am now, and I never miss, ever. And I haven't missed since the day I woke up, but I asked for my wedding ring. I got into my room, and I mean, I had garden hoses coming out of my side. They used a robot with 6 arms and a guy with an X-Pad or an Xbox joystick, basically, to do surgery. Big, giant incisions, like 6 of them, like this big, all over the place, and they just took out chunks nonstop. They wound up nicking my aorta. I pumped out a bunch of blood. The surgery took about 45 minutes later. Like it was literally long, like it was so many opportunities to not be here. Right. And I mean, I got partial paralysis in my abdomen. I can't feel my shin. You know, I have there's all kinds of stuff because they probably nicked some nerves going through the back and the spine, right? Because they went through all kinds of places. I have all these scars everywhere. And when I was finally somewhat coherent, it's probably a half hour, 45 minutes after I got to that room, still pretty spacey. And I go, you got to get me out of this bed. And they're like, well, it's going to be about 2 weeks till we can send you home. I go, you need to get me out of this bed right now. And they're like, you just had surgery. Like you can't get up, man. It's like you're still attached to the wall. You got like 3 IVs in you and you got garden hoses coming out of your chest. Which, by the way, I can't explain it, but when you go to bed, when you close your eyes one way and you wake up another, it is the most uncomfortable, like disconcerting feeling because I woke up with tubes coming out of me, missing parts. Because the doctor just before that said, okay, surgery went well. We got everything out. We had to take your lung. He said, nothing we could do. It was just totally destroyed. And I was like, fuck. Okay. Like, you know, and this is all on video, right? So now I'm asking to get out of the bed, still high. And my wife's got the phone because I handed her my phone before surgery. I go, no matter what happens, you record everything, no matter what. And she's like, are you sure? I said, yep. She's like, okay. So there I am. They're like, you can't get out of the bed. I go, you get me out of the bed or you pick me up off the floor. You have two fucking choices. Either way, I'm standing up. And so there I am, a bare ass, holding my fucking gown, holding my IV stand, a box with these tubes and vacuum hoses to the wall. And I look like I'm from like some horrible horror movie. And I'm doing little laps around my room. And I said, when can I get disconnected from all this shit? And they're like, it'll probably take about a day till the vacuum comes off, so to make sure there's no collapse. And I go, okay, cool. They got me disconnected the next day, and I said, where can I walk? And they went, anywhere on this floor. Just stay inside these 2 giant double doors. And I said, okay, cool. So I do laps around the nurse's station. They called security on me. They're like, you're fucking up everything. I go, I'm not fucking up anything. I'm against the wall. It's a 10-foot wide hallway. I'm not an idiot. When it says code blue, I know get the fuck out of the way. I'm not stupid. You know, and it took me 10 minutes to do my first lap because I could take maybe 5-7 steps and then my sats would crash, right? And I would just have to stop. And my wife would walk with me a little bit, walk with me a little bit, walk with me. And by the time I left, like I'd wipe off the whiteboard where all the drugs and everything they were giving me. Look at that. This is how many laps. This is what my sats were. And they got pissed off. And I was like, they finally gave up and they're like, fine, just write that down and tell us what your oxygen was. I go, okay, cool. Because you know I'm not going to change. Mm-hmm. And 7 days in, they were like, we're going to take the chest tubes out, man. You're good. There's no reason for you to be here. By the time I left, it was like 70, 80 laps, like just nonstop. And so my wife filmed pulling the chest tubes out. It's fucking brutal. Like 2 feet of hose, right? 2 of them just, and kept me there for, I think it was about 4 hours to make sure there was no issues. And then sent me home. And I got home, longest ride ever, because every bump fucking hurt.
Oh, I bet.
And my wife goes, "What do you want to do?" Yeah, it was brutal. Every bump hurt, and I got home, and I hugged my kids. And I'll tell you, you don't appreciate home until you haven't been there for a reason like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
thinking you may never go back.
What do you want to? Yeah, I did, yeah. Dude. It was true. When I kissed my wife before surgery, I took a picture, I sent it to her, and I didn't know if that was going to be the last time. Mm-hmm. And it was the most horrible feeling. And she's outside pacing a hole in the concrete, right, when I was going through surgery. And she'd get text messages from the surgeon. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Now we're doing this. Now we're doing this. He's doing great. Like all that kind of stuff. And she goes, what do you want to do? When we got home, and I said, I want to work out. She goes, okay. So I took a Valero weight belt, put it around my waist. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do anything but walk because I have these fucking 6 of these huge incisions, like my hand all over the place. And I took a 25-foot piece of Rogue strap, looped the handles through my belt on the back, and I looped the rest around the giant fringe sport sled, like push sled, and I put a 45-pound plate on it. My driveway was like 350, 400 feet, gravel, circle, right? Country boy, I like gravel driveways, man. And I had one person, not concrete. I go, oh, fucking country, man. I love gravel. So it's unforgiving, man. We played on gravel. When you fall, you know, right? So you just look like a nutty buddy when you get up. So I said, come get me when I collapse, when I can't. And I would just walk circles. And she watched out of my lab. She watched me walk. And when I couldn't, she came to get me. And that was all I could do because I couldn't do anything but walk because I had nothing, right? But I mean, I have video of me doing air squats. I was 150 pounds. It rolled me out of the hospital in a wheelchair, told me I was never going to run. I was never going to be fit. I was never going to be strong. I'm going to have to adapt and become what they define me as. And I said, not a fucking chance. You don't know me, son. You don't fucking know me.
And that's where the Spartan's born, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is people were calling me that. I've been called God of War and Spartan forever. I went outside the other day and the garbage guy was picking up his stuff, hanging off the back of the truck, and there's 2 guys driving. And he looks, and I'm getting into my wife's her Cayenne with her kids, and he looks at me. He goes, Leonidas, man. And I was like, what? All right, I'll take it. All right, yeah. He's like, yeah. He was just he's really excited, right? And it was like cool that kind of influence, because it's what I tell people about, and just a quick pivot about when you're fit, you already define your character. You already define your character.
It speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
You walk in a room, and so it speaks for itself.
Yeah, and I try and tell people that, right? Because the mindset already comes out. Mm-hmm. And so I mean, I got video of me with oxygen and I'm like squatting, like these big old knobby knees, these knobby elbows. I'm all skinny, you know, and I'm just like, I don't care. And I just I've never missed, you know, I would do a pull up, a squat, a push up, and a bicycle every day. And I would just do that. And I just 1 and then 2 and then 3. And that's why I tell people the very first day I did it, I sucked. I hated it. Now I still don't like it, but I have the resolve to go do it. And now I'm doing 51 every morning and 102 squats and 51 push-ups and 102 bicycles. And I never miss. Like even my call this morning, I was like, Brandy opened the door and it was 6:58 and I had a pod at 7. And she's like, it's 6:58. And I go, I know. And I was like, but I won't break my routine. Even wherever we're on vacation, we're in Vegas, we're in Arizona. I don't care. I will find a way. We were in Utah hanging out with Keaton, the muscle, and I was at the hotel. We were looking for a place for me to do pull-ups outside. Because you have to be that resilient about what you do because it defines your commitment to how you're going to be in the life
It's
you
a
want.
non-negotiable. It's not an emotional decision. It's just what you do. It's who you are.
No, it's just business. It's just business. And I think it doesn't matter if I like it or not. I still have to do it. And so it brought me into this world where now like my first client was basically in the hospital. I was feeling like a bag of shit and I came out and I started doing all this stuff. And people were like, how did you do it? That's always the question. They're like 48, you basically started over. Like money, fitness, life, everything. You started all over at 48. I go, I didn't give myself an option.
There is no
and that's
choice.
where I think a lot of people screw up is they don't zero out their options. They're like, I'm going to do it and I'm 98% committed. Yeah, but that means you're 2% not, which means you still have a way out.
Which means you're 0% committed because you're not,
exactly.
you're not all the
You
way.
have
You're
nothing.
not committed all. Yep, 100%.
Yep, you have nothing. You have nothing. People have tiers to their commitment, right? They have these varying grades of commitment. And I go, how can you have varying grades to your commitment?
It's a yes
You
or
either
no.
are going to do it or you aren't, because that tells me you're not committed. Because if you are going to save a life, you're going to die trying to save that life. It's not like I'm going to try until my thumb hurts, right? Like you go until you can't. And so I learned a lot about myself and my capacity, and that I don't have a capacity that has a limit. I just keep going. And you're never going to run a mile. You're never like everything. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. I kept going, keep checking boxes of shit that I'm going to do. And I mean, I built a company from like a coaching company, you know, you're part of it, like telling people how to succeed. Here's how you make a whole bunch of money doing what you want to do online. Do this. I will show you. We'll go from $0 to $1 million in a year. Here's how you get fit. Go from sloppy, skinny, fat, whatever it is, to being fit in a year. But people go, well, do you have any other programs? 1 year. People go, well, what about a shorter version? I go, it took me a year, and I guarantee you I have more resiliency than you.
Yes.
You know, and I'm very honest about that because people go, well, what if I want to do a 3-month program? Then I'm not for you.
Yeah.
Because
Same
you're
thing.
not going to, you're dipping your toe because I know that's what I was going to do. Right? If I dipped a toe in my own life, in my resolve, I would be either dead or some fat guy on a couch not having this conversation on 12 different meds, because they rolled me out with 12 different prescriptions and then went, good luck with life, right? Like, sorry. And I'm like, fuck, are you kidding me? No, because not only am I letting myself down, I'm letting my wife and my kids down, and everybody, like, I'm an example for somebody, and you're either going to be the example of what to do or what to never do.
1,000%.
And that's it. They're only talking about you on one of those sides. And people go, well, no, there's also average. Average is stagnation. It's either
What not to
expansion.
do.
It's either expansion or contraction, right? Because stagnation is contraction. And people like to go, well, no, because I'm happy where I am. No, you're not. It is in human nature to become more. And you are taught and conditioned to think that's bad. You're taught and conditioned to think money is evil. You're taught and conditioned to think fitness is evil. You're taught and conditioned to think a great, devoted, committed marriage is evil and bad and not the right thing to do. But yet the problem is that's where all the success is. And the arguments are on the extremes on either side, right? They're going to be like, well, what about this guy? He's fat. What about this guy? He's alone. What about this guy? Yeah, but you're arguing the extremes. The 1% on either end has no value.
Right.
Right? And so it goes back to the 98.
Regress, so there's really no in
Facts.
between life. Yeah.
No. And that's how I became, that's how I built all this, is I looked at my wife every day and I went, I'll be damned if I let her down. I'll be damned if I fucking let my kids down. Wow. And I used to sleep there with an oxygen machine hanging over the cannula, hanging over the headboard. And I would put it in my nose before I went in for surgery, the 3 weeks before this all happened, just to survive. And I called it my little blue buddy. It's in a ton of videos. You see this box and it's all brrrr in the background, right? Like just making a bunch of noise. My wife would stop. She'd move my hose where it was if it was in the way. And like I'd get tied up in this fucking thing at night. Like it was when I think back of what actually happened, and I think of people that send me messages every day and they go, bro, I so would have done what you did. No, you wouldn't have. No. Because you're telling me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that what I was capable of. And when when my wife told me, because I went, how did I get my ring on? Because I know I took it off because you're in surgery. You don't have shit on your hand. They fucking blow up your hand. They cut off your finger. Mm-hmm. Right. So she goes, it's the first thing you asked me for. And I thought, that's integrity, man. Mm-hmm. The first thing I was concerned about was, where's my ring? And to some people, it might be like, oh, it's just a ring. It's not. It's my wife. It matters, right? How do I get out of here? Even when I went for my follow-up, it was, I think, Jake, it was probably about 2 weeks afterwards. And they're like, well, you have to go for your follow-up. I was regimented about that because I'm like, take a look inside, make sure shit's doing what it's supposed to be doing. I went in and the doc was a 12-year veteran, right, that was looking at it. And he's like, you want to see? And I go, yeah. He goes, I've never seen anybody like this. He goes, I've done this for 12 years. I've never seen anyone like this. He goes, come here. He goes, look. He goes, here's basically where that one should be. He goes, but here's this one. He goes, like, you're at like 100%. He goes, I've never seen this. He goes, I've never seen anybody recover so fast. And I thought to myself, 100% guarantee it was two things. God, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I said, this is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And the other one was, I didn't quit. The human body is not like a fucking Honda. You know, like you take a Honda and you can redline it and eventually that Honda's going to blow up. Mm-hmm. You take the human body and you constantly redline it and the body goes, all right, I guess I got to get stronger. And the weak are going to say, well, no, there's overtraining. Listen, I know David Goggins. Mm-hmm. None of you guys, including myself, train like David Goggins, and he isn't overtraining. So I think to myself, and they go, well, he's a special case. Honestly, my world goes, what if he's the normal one and we're just not?
Yeah, because your body adapts to your environment.
So fast.
Yeah. And I don't
to both sides, right? Fucking epigenetics.
Yes. And I don't think anyone overtrains. And I'm I am bad about this. I don't sleep enough. I don't prioritize things. It's more about
I think we under-recover.
Yes, 1,000%.
Yes. I think what people do is they're like, and I made a comment about this and I made a post because people are like, oh, listen to this fucking bro. You know, you totally can overtrain. I follow this guy and I follow this guy. And they're like IFBB pros. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I'd rather have? Somebody who's an NFL linebacker who's been playing for 10 years. Talk to them about training because, listen, I got nothing against bodybuilding. I think it's fucking amazing. It is still very hard to do when people are like, it's easy. No, it's not.
No, it's
just not sport. Athletic.
Yes.
It's not athletic.
Right.
They're push-pull legs. That's an athlete. Bodybuilding is chest, shoulders, legs, or quads, hamstrings, biceps, tries, like, you know, so it's just depending on what your goal is.
Right.
But if you want to function and move like an athlete, even that, I tell people, push-pull legs, push-pull legs. Just train like that. I promise you, the byproduct of training like that is you look like a badass. Mm-hmm. The cool part is you move like one.
Yes.
And
that's why jiu-jitsu is such a beautiful thing, right?
I love rolling, right? Like it's such a good thing. And I think that if you look at people that are properly conditioning themselves, you could train 5 hours a day. My wife would do triple days all the time as a soccer player. And I mean, you've seen her lift. She's strong. And so I think the problem is if you do heavy squats 5 days in a row, well, you're just fucking stupid.
Yes.
You're not training properly. That's all.
Well, you're not training for a desired outcome either. There's not a purpose behind doing that. There's no like end goal with it.
Right. Like if you're like, all right, Trev, let's train solid for 100 days. We're like, okay, let's do it. And we train every day. 100%, we are not going to overtrain because we're going to constantly look for variation of what we're training. If we do the same thing over and over again for 100 days, we're going to be fucking broken. Right. And I think that's where people go.
Recovery time is when your body adapts and gets better. It's not when you're actually training.
It ain't the workout.
Right, exactly. So many people don't understand that.
Yeah, exactly. And then they go, well, your body can't recover, so you're not going to get any progress if you're always working out. And so I always have the same answer because, we have the wolf pack, right? So I was like, I came up with that because I went, listen, I love the lion's den. I love the wolves. I love all that, but wolves don't perform in the circus, lions do.
It.
So I went, I'm out. But the other part was I went, where? First of all, wolves are scary motherfuckers. They're so smart. And they're lethal, right? And so the way I look at it is I go, where in history have you ever seen a wolf kill an elk or a gazelle or whatever the hell it is, and the next day get up and go, hey, listen, Larry, I'm going to take today off. I did work yesterday. I'm going to just lounge here.
I ate yesterday. I don't need to eat again until
I'm
Tuesday.
good. I'm going to just chill. And, maybe like on Tuesday, I'll do it. They get up and they do whatever's required. Until the end of the day. And what's wild is if you look at every animal on Earth, there's no obese animals. I had somebody go, what about a hippo? I go, you know how strong a fucking hippo is?
Yeah.
They're fucking muscle, baby.
They're big, but
and
that doesn't mean they're fat.
Built like
they're
that for
stacked.
and they're built like that for a reason, right? Like I grew up on a farm. Pigs are fat. I go, pigs are all muscle. Just so you know. It is the most crazy ass animal on Earth, and good luck trying to hold one. And they're fucking mean. So it's like all this stuff, right? But I go, dude, there's no animal in nature that is obese. There is no animal in nature, and this part's anecdotal, there's no animal in nature that gets cancer. Animals owned by humans, domesticated animals are obese, they're diabetic, and they have cancer. Wow, fucking humans, obese, diabetic, get cancer.
So let's
Animals
go right
don't.
there because I got to touch on this because you started out
let's do
with
it.
your mentality of the old Trevor, and
Yeah.
you blame the world. I will reference it in saying that you were somewhat of a victim mentality because you were blaming
Absolutely,
everything else
100%.
and not looking in the mirror and saying it's me.
Yep.
Tell me what your thoughts are on the modern day dad bod and being out of shape and thinking that it's cool to be this beer belly fat guy chugging beers, because I know what I think, and I'm sure that our thoughts are similar, but give me your perspective on that.
Sure. Well, I think it devolved to that, right? So I think if I look back at my grandparents, my grandparents were farmers. And 90 years old, my grandpa was driving a school bus. And he manhandled the shit out of me at 67 years old like I was a fucking little boy. And I was 15 and full of testosterone and piss and, bitterness. And I thought I was all that, right? But he threw me around like a rag doll. So I'm like, he was strong. Most people in their 60s now are pussies, right? And the future 60 to 65-year-olds are going to be embarrassing outside of the way we think. But the dad bod, here's what's happened in my opinion. First of all, it's disgusting. I think it's embarrassing because you are consciously making a decision to do that.
This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com.